I was a child growing up in rural South Texas, a common pastime of me and my father's was going fishing up at Canyon Lake north of San Antonio where we lived. Most of the times we went, it was fine. Water was healthy, clear, full of fish, but on one occasion we found something strange. One of the last times we went there before moving here to Georgia, we were met by this: a green-tinged lake and a sign prohibiting access to the lake and banning fishing for the next month. The reason? An algae bloom. The term algae bloom is not one commonly brought up in everyday society, at most maybe overheard on your local weather report. But as a student of ecology here at the college, I study a variety of hazardous natural phenomena that affect the United States, of which harmful algae blooms, or HABs, have become incredibly more common, mainly due to human-made factors causing a rapid increase in the growth of what would be otherwise harmless algae species. So, for today's speech, let's go into what an algae bloom actually is, what factors cause them, and how they can harm both aquatic ecosystems and the human societies that surround them. According to a 2019 report by Melissa Denshank of the Natural Resource Defense Council on algae blooms, any type of algae can cause a hazardous bloom, but they are mainly in the U.S. caused by these guys: blue-green algae, which isn't actually an algae, but rather a photosynthesizing bacteria called cyanobacteria. Not to say that true algae don't bloom also. Stuff like golden algae in Texas is prominently known for being a hazardous bloom, and it is a true algae. These algae blooms are mainly spurred on by outside nutrient sources entering a ecosystem. Usually this is in the form of fertilizer brought in from agriculture and home and lawn care. These fertilizers are laden with stuff like nitrogen and phosphorus, which fertilizes algae like it would any other plant. These factors, paired with incoming heat caused by global warming, raises freshwater temperatures to around 65 degrees, which is perfect for algae to enter a state of overdrive. These two factors combined create an algae bloom. And once an algae bloom has begun, they're darn near impossible to stop. And that leads to the aquatic community surrounding them falling under their effects. The main detrimental effect of an algae bloom is that when an algae blooms and then subsequently dies, like all living things, the decomposition process removes all of the usable oxygen from the water, which is known as hypoxia. Think of it like how a fire in an enclosed space sucks all of the air and makes you choke. It's a bit grim, but it's a much similar effect for fish. But that's not the worst of it. The true harmful effects of algae blooms come from something known as cyanotoxins. Cyanotoxins are released from algae when they are in bloom and can infect not only fish, not only the water, but can even become aerosolized within the water cycle, leading to not even the air around infected lakes being safe to breathe. According to a separate report by Dr. Jennifer L. Graham in 2019 with her team at the United States Geologic Survey on the harmful effects of cyanotoxins, when ingested, inhaled, or made by contact on the skin, cyanotoxins will eventually make their way into the body, and they can cause things like skin irritation, breathing problems, stomach pain. And that's not the worst of it. Cyanotoxins can persist in the human body, and they have been linked to some really bad stuff. Cancer, heart failure. In some cases, they've even been noted as being linked to early onset brain degradation. And on that rather grim note, I hope that today you've come to an understanding that algae blooms are a dangerous phenomenon, one that not only affects aquatic ecosystems, but is a detrimental harm to humanity as well. But there is now, admittedly, there are some things we can do to help. We can't really affect major mass agriculture and the fertilizer runoff from that, but there are some things we can all do on an individual basis. proper use of home fertilizers in the lawn and garden, and alternative fertilizers like composting can reduce nutrient flow into aquatic ecosystems. And while it won't stop everything, it may just stop an algae bloom from ruining your next fishing trip.